Welcome to Moon Trees Live 3.
The Forest Service provided hundreds of tree seeds to NASA, who launched them into space as a part of the Artemis 1 mission.
In this set of 3 videos, we're exploring what happens next with our tree seed friends.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the possible impact of space travel on our seeds.
In case you missed our previous programs, check out Moon Trees Live 1 to learn about how these tree seeds were prepared for their journey through space. And check out Moon Trees Live 2 to learn about what happened to the seeds once they returned to Earth. Also, check out our other Moon Trees Live 3 videos. In episode 1, we check out how our seedlings are growing in a nursery. In episode 2, we discover how to measure our seedlings' growth.
But today, let's talk about results. We measured how our trees are growing, so let's talk about what we discovered.
Right! The excitement has been building since we started this project, and everyone really wants to know, did space travel have an impact on our seeds?
Just as a quick refresher, we had 3 different groups of tree seeds that we measured.
We had one control group. These were the seeds that didn't go up into space, and we were pretty sure we knew how they would grow.
We also had 2 variable groups of tree seeds that did go into space. One group was loaded onto the rocket months before it launched. We've been calling this group NASA 1 or N1. The other group was loaded onto the rocket just before it launched. We've been calling this group NASA 2 or N2.
Going into the experiment, my hypothesis was that the control seeds would germinate the best, and then the seeds with the shortest storage time would also germinate well, so that would be the NASA 2s, but maybe not as good as the controls because they would have been out of proper optimum storage conditions for a while, or it could have been space. And then that would be followed by the NASA 1s because they were outside of optimum storage conditions for a really long time.
So we had the 2 groups of seeds. In both of those groups, we included 5 different seed species. This included Douglas fir, giant sequoia, loblolly pine, sycamore, and sweet gum. That way, we can make sure we covered a wide range of trees that can grow all across the country.
When the seeds returned from space, we did several tests on them to see if they were healthy. This included a tetrazolium test, or TZ test, which means that we soaked some of the seeds in a salt solution, and if they turned red as a reaction, that meant that they were breathing. That's cool.
That tetrazolium test, that TZ test, we only looked at 2 species. We looked at loblolly pine, and we looked at one of our sources of American sycamore. And what we found is that for the loblolly pine, our tetrazolium test suggested that the controls, the N1 seeds, and the N2 seeds all had the same level of viability.
The level of viability means the chance the seeds had of sprouting and living.
We also did a germination test, which means that we essentially planted them to see if they grew.
My hypothesis would be that controls would be better than NASA 2s, which would be better than NASA 1s. But you know what? Sometimes science doesn't follow what you think is going to happen. And that's one of the fun things about science. And what we found with these seeds is we got kind of mixed results.
It's important to remember that all of our seeds in this experiment came from across the country, representing lots of genetic diversity. So, within each species of tree, the seeds didn't come from the same place. Douglas fir seeds, for example, were sent to us from 3 different places.
Some of those followed Cass's hypothesis, and some of them didn't.
We have a couple of species, Doug fir and sweet gum, that kind of followed that pattern, as did sycamore. We had one source of Douglas fir where none of the seeds, none of the NASA 1s, none of the NASA 2s germinated at all. Just nothing. So that's a little bit different. We really weren't expecting that. We had one source of sycamore that nothing germinated, not even our controls. We're not quite sure what happened there, but nothing happened.
The loblolly pines were interesting because all of them germinated the same, whether they were in space or not, whether they were stored on the rocket for a long time or for just a short time.
The sycamore, we thought that the control and NASA 2 would be similar. Nope, in our germination trial, there's a real stair step. The controls germinated the best. The NASA 2s germinated okay, but not as good as the control, but better than the NASA 1s, and the NASA 1s germinated most poorly. And then just to show that Mother Nature always has a trick up her sleeve, our giant sequoia did the opposite. And this really surprised us. Our controls, they germinated great. They were like 90% germination, which is really awesome. And it was about the same as the NASA 2s, which that kind of followed my hypothesis. But the NASA 1s, the ones that had been outside of what we thought would be optimum storage for the longest amount of time, germinated the best. So it just goes to show that sometimes you can think you're really clever when it comes to science, but Mother Nature still holds the winning hand.
Okay. But tetrazolium and germination tests weren't the only data we collected.
That's right. When the seeds sprouted and started to grow into seedlings, we took some measurements of their height, diameter, and how well they were photosynthesizing.
And what we're finding, and it doesn't surprise me too much, is that whether it was a control or a NASA 1 or a NASA 2 seedling, they're all growing really well and they're all growing about the same. We don't see any differences in their growth. So, based on our results, did space travel have an effect on moon tree seeds? Still a good question. I don't know if I have the final answer, but I'll tell you what the data is starting to suggest to me. Because of the 8 sources that we sent up into space, and because one of them just didn't do anything, of those 7, 5 of them, the NASA 2 seeds germinated statistically similar to the controls. So there was no significant difference. So that suggests to me that if the storage time's short and they're not out of optimum condition very long and they go into space, that germination is going to be similar regardless of the space travel.
Whoa! So it's looking like tree seeds are capable of traveling through space without any impacts on their growth, or at least their germination. Isn't that amazing?
Now, the reason we can't say that's true for sure is that you never know when something's a fluke. We have to do the experiment again in order to prove it.
So it's really important that we consider sending some more seeds into space to repeat this initial work, see if we get the same results, improve on our technique, and see if that also improves our results. And that's the way science works. We do some work, we look at it, we figure out the next steps, and it's an ever-evolving, ever-moving forward process in the search of truth.
And as Cass pointed out, we can always improve on our work. Now that we've done this first experiment, we might do things a little bit differently next time.
We'd like to send more seeds into space than we did this first time around, because the larger sample size that we have, the more things that we can measure, the greater number of things that we can measure, that gives us more confidence in the results that we see. It'd be nice to have more. So that's one thing. And then I'd love to work with NASA a little bit more to see how we can think about the environment that the seeds are in pre-flight and post-flight to make sure that we're not putting in more variability into our results, and that what we're really seeing is the space effects and not handling effects or some other effects that we're not even aware of. So the more tightly that we can control the environmental conditions, that would also help us better understand if there is a real space effect. I'm also excited that if we get an opportunity to send some more seeds into space, I'd like to increase the repertoire of species that we have going. We only had 5 species. It'd be nice to have a few more. And it would be nice to have some other species for other parts of the country that we know would be more adapted for long-term moon tree growth so that more folks can participate in this fun adventure we're calling Artemis Moon Trees. The other thing that it would be nice to do as a scientist is that when we did our germination trial, we did it in a greenhouse. And the conditions are fairly uniform in a greenhouse. But seed scientists, when they're testing seeds, they have controlled growth chambers that they put their seeds into where everything, light, temperature is very strictly controlled. And again, that helps reduce the variability that maybe doesn't have anything to do with your treatment. And so it helps get you a better, tighter answer about the effects on germination. So germinating these seeds in a seed germinator would also be something I'd love to do in the second round.
And while you're thinking about that second round of testing, we're getting ready for our 4th round of videos. We're not quite done with Moon Tree's Live 3 episodes just yet.
In 1 week, join us for a live question and answer program where our experts will answer your questions live.
Moon Tree's Live 3. The journey continues. So be sure to join our all-star cast for more out-of-this-world adventures by checking out all of our videos.
Thanks for watching.
have a range clear launch.
3, 2, 1.